This episode is not sponsored, but we encourage you to help support the small businesses, charities, and organisations that we mention.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Circle. I'm Rhiannon.
I'm Jess.
And today we are joined with a very special guest. We have a woman who is a Tamil woman.
Yes, you got that right.
Yes, who is passionate about fighting for social and political justice, hopes one day that her law degrees, plural people, plural, will come in handy to support her ambition. She thoroughly enjoys Pinterest and in her free time tries to make those boards come to life. She's an avid Taylor Swift fan. I know we've got a lot of those listening. And she is a beloved cat mom. Please will you welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, Rowena.
Thank you guys for having me.
I feel like that was the longest intro I've done, but I nailed it.
You did. You really did.
Thank you so much for coming on this episode. It's so lovely to have you. I met you a year ago in Dubai, and it's so lovely to be able to have someone that's so new in my life come on the podcast. And Jess is getting to meet for the first time.
Thank you guys for having me.
I just wanted to start off with, because I'm meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a bit more about why you chose the law profession? And can you tell us about your role? What sort of sector of law are you in?
So initially, actually, I wanted to become a journalist, but coming from a very conservative sort of brown Daisy family, like my Tamil family, I'm not joking when I tell you guys my dad took 2 years to finally accept the fact that I was actually going to study law and not medicine or engineering like every other Indian kid. I'm not joking. No, it actually took him 2 years to kind of grasp that. And but it's okay. I do really enjoy it. And so I wanted to become a journalist so as to be a voice really and kind of sort of cover stories that need to be highlighted for the society. And since I couldn't really do that, I don't feel like I was forced into having a career shift, but I did research a lot on how else I can actually do what I want to do, and I picked law. So when I was researching about doing law, I read this one article. I can't really remember who wrote it, but they were talking about what it was to be a legal professional, and they said it kind of like empowers them every day to give voice to the vulnerable people of the society. And that's actually why I wanted to do law, and hopefully that's what I end up doing in my career.
Yeah, that would be I just think it's amazing because you are someone who is so outspoken on social media about different human rights and things like that, and I just think it's great that you're doing something with your career to sort of try and further those.
And to answer Jess's question, currently I'm not in the field that I see myself working in the long run. So I work in the commercial sector. I work for a company, so it's more corporate work. I deal with disputes within the company or with other companies and stuff like that, really, just NDAs and basic stuff. But I'm really glad that I do get to do what I do right now, because I feel like it's quite important to have some sort of commercial awareness, especially given the time and age we live in.
Right.
And I know for a fact, if I did not have this job, I probably would not have considered having any sort of commercial awareness.
Well, I mean, you live in Dubai as well. Like, what could be more commercial than everywhere that's in Dubai right now?
You would think that, but you would really think that, but no. So when we were in uni, especially the law graduates, we were forced sort of to download podcasts. We followed Twitter pages that actually would make us commercially aware, because we actually did not know what was going on other than our textbooks. So I probably would have still been in that bubble. So I'm really glad I am doing what I'm doing right now.
So what route is it that you want to go in then, if you're not in the route that you want to go in?
Probably something with human rights, definitely. And I've always wanted to go into family law. And I know it's a very jarring and a very stressful position to take up. I worked pro bono for 3 clinics in the UK, and we did family cases, and it's just so hard to separate emotion from your actual work. But hopefully one day I will get the strength to actually do that. I guess it comes with time and experience, and hopefully one day.
Yeah,
I do definitely want to get into family law though.
Wow, that's so difficult, I think. And it's such an admirable job because, like you said, it's so difficult to separate emotion from things like that. Something that's so important as well, where it's like you have to keep your emotions in check.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I also think it's amazing that you come across as a very confident person who knows what they believe in, and to have that kind of strength and already know what you want from such a young age, because you obviously would have had to have decided a few years ago what you wanted to study and read into doing law and things like that. I think that's quite amazing. I personally was very lost and still kind of am. I'm still figuring out what I would want to be, but the fact that you've got these kind of like innate need to like help people, and I think that's amazing. Really admirable. So why did you decide to study in the UK? And where did you study, by the way? Are you allowed to, you can say that, can't you?
Yeah, Middlesex, London. Basically, when I enrolled to study law, I chose Middlesex, but the Dubai campus, because at the time, my father was living away from us for work, and I hadn't seen him for a bit. So he was working in Dubai then. So I thought joining in Dubai, that would be fun, and I would get to live with my dad once again. But unfortunately that did not work out, because as soon as I did get my acceptance into Middlesex Dubai, my parents moved to Scotland, and they were there for the better part of 4 to 5 years. So that's actually the main reason I moved to England, because I wanted to be closer to them. I'm an only child, so it was just really weird. And I was also,
you're like, why are they running away from me?
Yeah, it was really weird. And I was 17 when I started uni, so I kind of still wanted to. Yeah, we graduate soon in the Indian system, educational system. Right. Yeah, it wasn't like an accomplishment, it just how it works. So that's why I moved to England. And since I had already started in Middlesex, they offered me a transfer program, which was really great, and I thoroughly enjoyed my entire time in England. So much so that I did not have a break year. I literally wanted to stay in the country longer, so I just went ahead and did a master's. I was like, nope, I'm not leaving yet. Not kicking me out yet. No.
Wow.
So how does that work? So you studied law in the UK. Is it hard to study law in one country and then practice it in another where the laws are different, or how does that work?
So the thing is, the UK teaches us common law, which basically covers every country. And personally, just in my personal opinion, to anyone watching, I feel like in law school, they just teach you to hone your skills like research, drafting, stuff like that, stuff you basically need to be a lawyer or just work in the legal profession. Regardless of which country you go to, you're not going to remember the law, actual statutes, section wise that you've studied in school. So thank God for Google. So, I feel like as long as you have learned the skills that you basically need, you're okay actually practicing. And like I said, just researching on the law of the country you're in.
This is this is like a really, really probably out there analogy of it, but I was like, okay, so it's like learning how to cook, and then you just have different ingredients in different countries.
Basically that, yeah. Basically that, yeah.
Like a lot more than that.
But luckily, there's only 2 legal systems. So there's the common law one. The UK teaches us, and then there's civil law, which is followed in America. So most of the other countries kind of developed from these, so it's quite easily manipulatable. So I thought I would maybe go back to India, because I did really think I would go back to India to qualify in India, because obviously I wanted to go back. And India, since they were under the British rule, we still practice common law, and that's the reason I specifically chose a UK university and not a US university.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Just for makes a lot of sense. So, when did you move from? So you've sort of lived quite a lot of places from what I'm aware of.
Yeah. So as soon as I finished high school, since I was 16 and a half at the time, they wouldn't let me join uni. understandably, they said I would have to do a foundation course, and I didn't necessarily need it. It was just a time gap. So I moved to Malaysia.
Was this in Dubai or was this in India?
This was in Dubai. So I did apply to India, but like I said, I wanted to move closer with my dad. I did not take up the Indian route. I wanted to move to where my dad was. So since I was 16 and a half, they wouldn't let me in university, and I didn't necessarily want to do a foundation course. So I had 8 months, and at the time, my dad was working in Malaysia. So I lived in Malaysia for 8 months, and my parents lived there for 2 years. So that was practically home, back and forth for summers and winter breaks, whenever.
Right.
Then I moved to Dubai for a year and a half. And then I moved to London for a year and a half. And then I moved to Leeds for a year and a half to finish my master's. Amazing. And then I'm back in Dubai now.
Got it.
Do you see yourself in Dubai for a while?
Yeah, I guess so. Especially given the pandemic, definitely. The reason why I'm being in Dubai is I'm still kind of trying to figure out which jurisdiction I really do want to qualify in. Right. I do have the option of qualifying in the UK since my degree is from there, and not really sure about India because they have rules and regulations. And maybe I'm looking into Canada. So maybe.
Wow, that would be cool.
Yeah, closer to you guys too.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of going on sort of about things that have been going on in India. I'm just going to read this because I wrote this down and I don't want to really muck it up the way that I've said it. So recently there's been a lot happening in Indian government, which you've been sharing online. And the most recent was the Supreme Court putting a hold on the order of the Bombay High Court to acquit a man after observing that groping without skin-to-skin contact does not constitute a sexual assault under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Now, that's a lot of words. Are you able to sort of help our listeners sort of understand what the hell is going on here? And if you wouldn't mind offering your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I actually did some research and wrote something down so we can all understand this way better.
Amazing. So, thank you.
Of course. So just as a background, what happened was there was a case brought between to the Bombay High Court. So Bombay is a state in India. Mm-hmm. The case that was brought in front of them was a 39-year-old man had groped the breast of a 12-year-old girl by inviting her to his house under the pretense of offering her fruits. So that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And that's why they were brought to the court. So obviously the entire case, like face value, problematic. But to fully understand, we need to go into the legal principles. So bear with me. I will try not to make this boring.
Okay.
So basically what happened was the Bombay court did hold that the man was not guilty for sexual assault under Section 7 of the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Sorry. Yeah. So it's called POCSO. That's what we will call it from now. It's quite wordy.
Yeah.
So the reason they said that it is not sexual assault under this section of the POCSO is because the judge passing the sentence had to interpret the law. So basically, this section of the law, it states that any act would only amount to sexual assault if there is skin-to-skin physical contact between the accused and the victim, and the victim's private parts, basically. So that's exactly what the law says. And the second reasoning that the judge who said that he will not be held for sexual assault was that the punishment under Section 7 of the POSCO was stricter, and you require more solid proof, and allegations had to be stronger, basically. But the thing is, he didn't get off scot-free. Like, the law did hold him guilty, but just under a different law.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the law that did hold him guilty was the Indian Penal Code. It held him guilty for the offense of outraging a woman's modesty. And it's like a Section 354 under the Indian Penal Code and not the POCSO.
Right.
People obviously kind of went off tangent, which is quite understandable because all the newsletters and all the tweets and literally everything on Instagram, especially stories and stuff that came out, was basically implying that it was a female judge who let the person get off scot-free, did not amount to sexual assault. But that's not the case. The reason why the lawyers and Supreme Court in itself have to kind of step in was because they wanted the case to be treated severely. And
Right.
they also, but it's very important that people do understand that he did not get off scot-free. He just had a lesser punishment. The difference really is, like I said, the sentencing of the man. So under the POCSO, the minimum sentence is 3 years, whereas under the law that the judge held him accountable, the minimum sentence is only 1 year. So obviously that was not okay with, especially people from the community the girl was from.
Right.
They were completely outraged, completely understandable.
Yeah.
Of course, the Supreme Court, they intervened, they lodged a complaint, known as a petition. They said that not holding this particular case as amounting to sexual assault is unprecedented. And if it doesn't get upheld as a sexual assault case, it would set a dangerous precedent.
Do you agree with that?
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Because we were taught in law school as one of the basics that if we ever want to draw up an argument, or sometimes we were asked to write judgments as if we were the judges, we always had to refer back to case laws which had similar circumstances, and we were supposed to reference those case laws so we would have a strong and valid argument.
Right.
So in the future, if something misfortunate like this happens, obviously the defendant's lawyers can always refer back to this case, and that is so dangerous because it could go on and on and on, and the precedent's not going to get broken.
Absolutely.
So, no. I think the problem is the way the law was written. There wasn't much place for interpretation, and the judge basically was actually, legally speaking, taking all my emotions aside, kind of only doing her work, because the law did clearly state, unless there's physical contact, it is not sexual assault under the Children's Act.
So is that wording where it was, unless if it's skin to skin contact, is that something that is up for discussion to be changed? Is it something that is never going to, like, it's always going to stay the same? Or does the pressure from the Supreme Court cause the Bombay High Court to relook at, like, revise the wording?
So obviously it's not just the Bombay High Court who would get to, sort of revise the whole wording. This is the law in the whole of India, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, it's the law in the whole of India, because it's just the act. And unlike the US, we have unified systems, so our laws are the same throughout the country. Yeah. So I guess it really has to be passed as a bill. It should be up for debate in the parliament, but I don't know how that's going to work, or how much priority this is going to get, with the country having a lot of other things going on at the moment. Like, realistically speaking, as a sexual assault victim myself in the country as well, realistically speaking, I'm not sure. And if I'm being honest, I do not have hopes for it either. At least I'm glad that people are aware that this was not okay, but they do need to understand that it wasn't the judge's fault for this sentence to be passed. It was just the way the law is written. And this is the fundamental problem with any jurisdiction, in my opinion, because I feel like the laws and the policies, they're the ones that need to be rewritten, and not the people, in most cases at least, not the people actually doing their job to uphold them.
Right, of course, yeah. Based off of something that what you just said, that you were a victim yourself, like, did this help your drive towards wanting, justice and wanting to practice law yourself? Did that encourage that at all? Did it sort of, does this, is it triggering?
Yeah, honestly, not really ever given it much thought, because the way I was raised in the country, in the society I was raised, it was just better to keep quiet than actually dwell on it. So we kind of just, like, it's not just me, I know I'm talking for most of my friends back home as well.
It's so unlike you, though, from everything that a person seeing you online, it seems completely unlike you.
From personal experience, I can say this much though, like, that was the society and the way I was brought up, family or otherwise, which is understandable because they've been brought up in that society and that sort of mindset as well.
Right.
But I know you guys can back me up on this as well. Like, women, usually when they come forward with something as sensitive as anything to do with sexual assault, sexual harassment, worst case rape, they're always silenced. And we always have the backlash of, what if she's lying? Or there's always this one voice in your head that always goes like, they're not going to believe you. You're going to look like a joke.
Yeah.
It has happened to me multiple times. Every time I did actually open up to somebody about it. Not my parents, but with close family. I remember once, the first ever time I think I brought it up, I was 14. The first thing they said is, what were you wearing? Bear in mind, I hadn't hit puberty. I was skinny. I was a child.
Yeah.
I was literally a child, you know? So the first question they go is, what were you wearing? And it's so bizarre. You would think that, you know, people would change with the times. At least people around my age would kind of react to it better. But recently, at least since I moved back, it's not been the case. And I'm just still completely shook, and I haven't completely processed that. It's still always pointing the finger at the victim. And it's not just me. I see others, like friends or people I know, trying to kind of address the situation either on social media or just person to person. But it's always, at the end of the day, it's victim blaming. Like, maybe if you didn't wear that, maybe if you weren't drunk, maybe if you
were
didn't
encouraging them basically by your clothing.
So I mean, like we said, this is dangerous, the wording and everything, how it can affect future cases. But do you also think it influences and encourages dangerous behavior elsewhere in the world? Because I'd sort of mentioned before to you how there's laws in the United States, for example, where a police officer can rape a woman in their custody. Like in certain states, not all states of the United States, but in certain ones, that's allowed without any repercussions. They are allowed to do so, and they are allowed to give consent on behalf of the woman that they are raping. And I just think, we're in 2021. How has this been something that's been completely overseen? You know, it's just, I just don't understand how this works. And I just wonder how it feels being someone who practices law, being someone who wants to go down the route of human rights. And I'm very much assuming it would be pro women's rights as well. How that makes you feel, and how that makes you, like, I can only imagine the fire it starts to burn for you, like to want to just, you know.
It's just weird. You should see the debates we have on feminism within law classes. It's just a bunch of girls just so mad. We're so mad, we're almost crying and yelling at each other
so
about the problem.
Why, isn't it? That's so understandable. Like, I think even last night I heard something and I just cried and I was angry. And it's another one of those moments as a woman and I don't think it even matters if you're a young woman or an old woman. You get mad and enraged by this, because it's just like, how dare you make us feel like we're different based on the gender that we are? It's just it's absurd. So I just wonder, do you feel like there is anything that can be done or will be done? Or do you really feel like this is how it's going to be for us?
No, this is not how it's going to be for us, and I hope to fucking God it's not. No, that's not what you and I are trying to do here. That's not what we're doing. No. It's like I said before, I feel like we collectively, as a society, as the whole world, need to understand and kind of come to terms with the fact that we do need to strip down our policies and make better laws. We need to pressurize the lawmakers, the policymakers, to keep in mind everything that's happening. Because these laws were written in Shakespearean English. English is not my mother tongue. I had to learn English. It's my first language, yes. Definitely my first language, but not my mother tongue. So do you understand? It's so bizarre. Like, it's written in Shakespearean English. And even like the stuff they quote back to Lord whoever, and they have their own way of saying it, which is not Shakespearean English, but it's still old. It
may as well be.
Literally, yes. No. So if you think about that, you can see that people are still deriving excuses. That's what it is, by the way. It's pure bullshit excuses. They're deriving excuses dating way back to early 1900s. So if we don't make a change now, and it's like I've mentioned to you both before, as lawyers and in law school, we're taught that our arguments would be more valid if we quote previous cases with similar circumstances. So if more judges and more people kind of set a new precedence, I feel like people, especially in the legal sector, would follow that path. They will not have an excuse to go back to old and ancient laws, which are just a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
That's literally what they are. Of course, there are some good laws, but we can't keep focusing on that every time when the entire world is burning down.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion.
No, I could not agree more. Also wanted to know, sort of talking about like the future, and you said that you wanted to, go into family law and stuff. Do you have any ambition to sort of go to like, I don't know if it's the same terminology or not. My only understanding is like justice RBG in the States. Like, is that something that interests you, or is that not quite the same thing?
For the longest time, I did want to become a judge, but again, I still have to sort of figure out where exactly I want to qualify.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. But then again, kind of realized, so I don't know if you know this, but I'm sure you know this, but RBG, she became the Chief Justice when she was 60 years old.
Yes. How I watched a documentary on her the other night, and I was crying my eyes out with happiness because I was just like, thank you for everything.
Yeah, but also like 60 years, that's quite old.
Yeah.
Very old, especially with our generation, the pandemic, our diets. I hope you guys have better diets than I do. My family doesn't think I'm going to live past 50 with the way I eat and the way I just take care of myself. No, I'm just dehydrated half the time, running on 7 glasses of coffee a day. No, I did always want to qualify as a judge, but I do know that it has a benchmark, a certain age that you need to attain before you actually do so. So I'm going to put that on pause since I have been mentioning this quite a lot. I do want to, however, research and kind of try to help with making policies, especially with regards to gender equality. Like, that is something I would try to do. If I've done that in my life, that's all that's going to be on my gravestone. Not a loving mother, not a lovely wife. Nope. That's all that's going to be my gravestone now. That's definitely my ambition. But at the same time, with the world just completely changing, I still feel like there's going to be things that I'm not going to be okay with, and things I have to adapt with and be flexible with. So I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm still learning and unlearning myself. And for me to ever move forward in my career, or even personally speaking, I need to have an open mind and just hope for the best and just stay true to myself, really.
Yeah. Do you know what I was saying to Ree earlier? What I really enjoy is, previous to meeting you, I did have a look on your Instagram to try and find out a little bit more about you. And also on this podcast already, I feel like I've learned so much. What I enjoy is that I feel educated when I look at your Instagram. I feel like you're not being like, oh, you should know this. This is really bad if you don't know this.
Patronizing.
It's like, okay, you don't know this, here's information, please have a read. And you're trying to inform people, which is such a
better way to
breath of fresh air. It's really nice because there are so many topics I think that you talk about that, like you said, are just not widely spoken enough about. And I think it's great. I think people should go and follow you on Instagram. Absolutely. And I'm sure we'll plug you. Following on talking about your social media, as well as the educational things, I've seen that you've traveled a little bit, and obviously you've lived in multiple different countries. Has this shaped your views on law and of life? And is that something that you enjoy doing, traveling? Because you were saying that you might go to Canada next.
I always make a joke saying that I'm a Sagittarius, so I've got commitment issues, which is why I kind of move a lot. But I know Ree's one as well. Yeah, so I do enjoy moving a lot. With regards to if it has made me think about law differently, definitely yes, because most of the countries that I have lived, which is basically India and Malaysia, which are both my homes, I feel like since they're developing countries, they still do have a long way to go, especially in comparison to the UK, where there's just so much freedom and not much restriction. Taking that and looking at India and Malaysia, and you're just like, okay, yes, since I've lived in the countries, I know where they're kind of sort of coming from. Like, I know where their values are coming from, and I know why people have certain mindsets. Like, I understand it, doesn't mean I am okay with it or I accept it, but definitely understand that. But also seeing it from a different perspective, I do know that we could benefit better from being a bit more progressive, especially when it comes to gender equality or inclusion of all sexes, especially with those two topics, which I personally give preference to. We could definitely come a long way, but I also do know that we're a long way from actually addressing that, but it doesn't seem impossible. And with that, I'm kind of glad, like, at least it doesn't seem impossible. And going back to the fact that I did live in a country where there weren't much restrictions, I kind of had to realize and accept the fact that with freedom is just very easily misused. For example, freedom of speech. Literally anyone can say anything and get away with it. You could call me racist stuff and get away with it. I could say stuff to you and get away with it because we both have the same freedom of speech. So I think it's sort of like trying to find the right balance, because there's always going to be some sort of imbalance, regardless of how many people misuse it or not. I don't think we're ever going to be completely satisfied, but at the same time, there is hope. And with that, I think we're supposed to be satisfied for now. There is definitely hope.
I think it's good that you do feel that way, because I feel like, well, I think if you had said, yeah, there's no hope, I'd be like, oh, okay. I think I probably would have felt better. But I think if there's something reassuring when you hear someone in medicine be hopeful. If there's something reassuring when you hear someone in science say something's hopeful. So knowing that someone feels that there's hope in law as well, something that's meant to protect everyone, I think that's a very positive thing to take from this personally. Anyway, I feel a lot more hopeful myself.
No, I feel like definitely, especially if you look into developing countries, most of the new parents now, and like my parents as well, they're more inclined to send their children to get the best of education abroad. And when children like myself go back home, we kind of try and have this conversation with our parents, conversation we should have had the minute I was groped or the minute I heard the first racist thing that was said to me. Like, we tend to have these conversations, and they are faced with truth that they don't really want to be faced with, but they don't really have a choice. Personally speaking, like, that has helped me a lot, like trying to explain to my parents what is what and how I feel about a certain thing and how they need to be more vocal about this with their siblings and so on and so forth. Obviously, it might not seem like a big thing, but I always say this: if it affects at least one person, that's why I do my Instagram posts, by the way. If it at least affects one person, that's more than enough for me. I'm not gonna aim for world domination overnight. No.
I think that's completely the right mentality to have, and I think a lot of us have been feeling the same way, that sharing through social media, if you're only educating your friends, that's still one more than you know than yesterday, you know. So I think that's definitely a great way to look at it. I also wanted to know sort of how that feels for you, sort of being outspoken in Dubai, because I suppose from our outside knowledge, Dubai is this big, amazing, shiny place, but that also has sort of some very different laws or rules, shall we say, about how women can be, I guess.
True, yes, but Dubai is really, really, really diverse. Like, I could walk to the street and find 5 other Indians, or I could go to this one particular area and just find Egyptians. Like, it's really, really diverse. So keeping that in mind, most of the country expats who are here, they've been brought up with the same mindset that I've been brought up back in India or back in whichever developing countries they've come from. And they kind of just sort of have this mindset and this influence from their societies, which, again, like I said, poorly, because I have traveled and lived away from home, have I been able to identify that this is not their fault. It's just they would have to definitely unlearn a lot of things. But that being said, it's just so funny that you asked me about how it is to be a woman in Dubai. So every time I do try and have the conversation, like try to discuss something I've posted on my Instagram in a party or just a gathering, sort of like, what do you guys think about this? Either I'm being rude or I'm being a buzzkill. I remember this one particular gathering where I was sat in a chair and I had a full circle of men around me, and I had to explain to them why I was pro-feminism. And I was like, it's just basically, I'm saying what you guys have, same rights I wanted. And it's just so bizarre. Like, you're having to explain that to your friends who are the same age as you.
Yeah, so when I was in Dubai, one of the guys there, I can't remember what I said, but he turned to me and went, "Oh, are you one of those feminists or something?" And I was just like, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am.
Oh, yeah, no.
One of those.
One of those.
Yeah, I was like, and it was kind of like, it was a bit shocking for me at the moment, because fortunately in my life, most of the men are pretty much like feminists, like my dad and my brother and stuff, and my friends elsewhere, that if I'm not fighting for my rights, they're fighting for my rights, if that makes sense. So it was kind of crazy to me, or a bit of a like moment to have that question. So that's kind of why I asked. I wondered if you had any experience with that, but wow, people around you in a party.
No, tons. I think I actually have pictures. I can DM it to you, but no, that actually happened. And I've been invited to lesser parties since, but hey, I have no regrets. We still move. It's their loss, but it's just so crazy. You see all these grown men, not even grown, they're the same age as you, and you're like, I'm trying to tell you the right you have is also right that I feel like your sister should have. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
I think there's also something quite nice though, like you said, about them being this age or younger, because they're more impressionable. So it's better they learn now than you have to have this conversation with them when they're 50 or something. So I think that's quite good. I kind of want to go a little bit off topic of all of this, and I want to talk about your fashion, if that's all right. You have some incredible looks that you serve on Instagram. You have a couple of accounts that I follow, and some of the looks that you serve are complete, like Legally Blonde meets Clueless meets something of the R&B like world. It's just sort of it's just a breath of fresh air. And I just want to know, where does this come from?
Actually, an act of rebellion. Don't tell my friends. No, but I was born and raised in India. I don't know, I think it's okay if I say this. So basically, since I was born and raised there, I was forced to live in this society where I had to dress a certain way, look a certain way. I remember, true story, I was kicked out of one of my clubs in school. I think it was a tennis club, something like that, 5th grade, right? I don't remember, but it was one of the clubs. Get kicked out of it because apparently they did not like the way my mother dressed, because my father had no control over the way my mother dressed. Bear in mind, she was wearing jeans. That was not allowed.
Wow.
How dare a Tamil woman wears jeans? Where is this coming from? And my mom's a petite woman. Like, she's like 4'11". It's jeans. It covers the whole leg.
Yeah.
It kind of like really, really pissed me off. I remember that day very clearly. I was class rep. Everybody from a very young age have had this impression that I don't speak my mother tongue quite well. FYI, speak it right, read, whole thing, right? My dad would actually disown me if I don't do it. So I'm always okay with it. So I remember hearing the teachers like speak about that and like how the way my mom dressed and everything in my language very quickly. And I kind of grasped it. And
they thought you couldn't understand.
Yeah, I didn't like fully understand because it was speaking really fast, but I did. And I remember we had like these badges where I was class rep at that time. So pissed off. I did not know how to act. Take the badge, I threw it at the teacher's face, call my mom, and she's like, we need to talk to your mom. I was like, no, you have a problem with me, you will talk to me. And this is what, me 8 or 9. And my mom's like, Rowena, what are you doing? You can't be rude, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, we need to go right now. I will explain everything later. And luckily my mom, but my parents have always, taken my word whenever. So that's always been my saving grace. And when I went out and I told my mom what happened, she was obviously very heartbroken. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I actually did something that would actually affect your club. And I'm like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I don't want to be part of the club.
I don't, like, they don't deserve me. No, it's so crazy. So yeah, I kind of like started off with that, like how I do love wearing my desi clothes, my saris. I do absolutely love them. I wish with all my heart I knew how to drape it without my mother's help, but fortunately I do not. We'll learn, hopefully, in time. Kind of started from that, and then it just went from every time I watch a really nice film, I'm just like, yep, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And then before you knew it, I had a whole Pinterest board, and then I'm just having all of them come to life, and I'm like, yes, this is the most creative I will get. I'm not a musician, I'm not a dancer, I'm not a creative artist, but when it comes to fashion, this is the most creative I'm gonna
You've
get.
Got it.
Okay with that. And I'm okay with that.
So your passion with Pinterest is fashion.
Yeah, just fashion. Home decor as well. And we recently started with plants. Hopefully I don't kill them. It's very recent. So I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Well, I just want to sort of wrap this up on our sort of final question that we ask all of our guests. And it's a bit of a broad one, but we like to ask, what makes up your circle?
I'm always very keen to kind of learn new things, but I don't mean just like with current events. I mean like actual learning. I'm currently doing a behavioral economics course, the free one I found on edX. So I don't think I've stopped studying in the academic sense since I first started school, which was 3.5 years. So definitely that kind of defines me. I don't know. I honestly do not know why I do that, but I do quite enjoy just knowing new things. And I know it probably will not help me right now, but you never know. Like knowledge is never a waste.
No, definitely not. It's power.
Yeah, no, definitely. So definitely that. My Taylor Swift music, I cannot live without them. So definitely. Also, I don't know if you guys have streamed Evermore, but it's really good. You should definitely do it. So I don't know why I'm promoting her on your podcast.
I feel like this may cause a rift between us, and I'm sure our mutual friend has never told you this, but I've not a fan.
No. It's okay. I like you too much for that to matter anyway. So I'll let that slide. Just this once.
So your circle sounds like it's made up of a lot of knowledge in Taylor Swift.
Yes.
What a combination.
Yeah. So the way that we like to end all of our episodes is by dedicating the episode to either a small business, a charity, or an organization. And because you are our guest, we have asked you to tell us one that is important to you and what you'd like to dedicate this episode to. So if you'd like to tell us what that is.
So it's a Dubai-based small business, although it ships internationally. It's called Legacy by Lene. Lene is the person running this. It is a female-owned business, and I genuinely love her products. It is handcrafted skincare products, and she's really great, and you guys should definitely check her out.
Cool. Is she? So she's on Instagram, is she? Is that how people can check her out?
She is. So I will send you the link, and I will also give you the Instagram handle for the page.
Perfect. So we'll be displaying that right now on the YouTube video, and it will be on our post on Instagram after this episode is released. So please make sure to go check that out. Please also go and check out Rowena's Instagram too. You don't want to miss all of her information on human rights and all of her amazing outfits as well. So thank you so much for coming on today's episode and chatting with us. We've absolutely loved having you, and hopefully you'll come back.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for actually making an initiative and making time and effort. Honestly, like it's a huge deal, and I'm really, really, really proud of you guys. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, everyone, as always, check out our socials, check out YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, go and stream on Spotify, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.